All right, we're live. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Fake Sports Dynasties. I'm Mike. Brian's with me. It's the holiday season, so it's always a good time to catch up with your crazy relatives. So
Yes.
I'm doing that now because Brian and I are related. And we have a question right off the bat. Man, this one seems to be showing up in all the shows lately. But P.F. Holden wants to know, how do I get girls to like me? And I'd say a good start is to master not only Out of the Park Baseball, but also Football Manager.
Yeah,
And
I haven't done both. I don't know. I don't know if I've done either. I did make the 1989 Orioles a little bit better, or 88 Orioles. 88 Orioles.
89 Orioles, right? The why not year, or was it 88 that you did your O's?
I did the bad team.
Okay.
So yeah, I made them a little better. I forget how much better, but Football Manager, I've done okay. I did my last. Because the new one, so that's what we're talking about, Football Manager and OOTP. And Football Manager comes out in November, so I'm just starting a new one. So the last one I had, Football Manager 20, I did all right. I didn't do amazing, but I did all right. I just had one career through the whole thing, and I did pretty good.
Before we jump into Football Manager and some of the features that would be cool to see and Out of the Park, tell me a little bit more about your O's sim. So you did an Orioles sim, 1998 Orioles. That was the year they started off like 0-21 in real life, right?
Yeah. So I took over the 88 Orioles, and I tried to keep it as like Pat, as normal as possible. Like I didn't try and make a crazy trade because I went in thinking I was only going to do the one season. Like I wasn't going to make this a dynasty. I just wanted to see what would happen if you redid one seminal year, like something that was important.
Right.
So I didn't make any crazy trades. There was a weird thing where Curt Schilling was on the team from the beginning, but in real life they traded for him midway through the year. So even though I probably could have used him early, I kept him in the minors until about the time that he would have come up. And Mike Boddicker was who he was traded for. And I just traded Boddicker around that same time. Like I was like, right. I'm gonna, since they didn't do everything perfect, I'm gonna fudge with it as much as I can.
I remember that in one of your videos. I noticed Schilling was in. You talked about him being on your minor league team, and that was the season they traded Boddicker to Boston and got Brady Anderson and Curt Schilling back.
And I think you bringing it up was what brought it to me because it's been so long. I totally, for some reason, I only really associate Schilling with when he got traded away to the Astros in the Glenn Davis trade. That's what I think of when I think of him related to the Orioles. So, but yeah, so I did that. I thought it was just kind of fun to go through, and that's one of the things I love about Out of the Park that I think it has over Football Manager is the historical aspect of it, the ability to go back and play and pick whatever. Or one thing I was going to do, and I haven't, but I might now that I got like 10 days off, is they have a tournament function where you can I might just pick 8 random teams and run a tournament and just see what the hell happens just for the fun of it, which is I think what is great about these things. So yeah, so I took the O's of 88, and I remember it's been a while since I did it, but I remember I started off like, yeah, they're bad, but they won like their 4th game, so I was better than Cal Ripken Sr. And then they had like a really good May. Like May was almost 500. And I'm like, this is going to be cool. And then the rest of the year was just an absolute shit show. Like the pitchers were just so bad. Every starting pitcher was absolutely horrible. And I remember thinking at one point, like, okay, I'm going to kind of break the rhythm of what the Orioles did. And I'm going to bring up some of these young guys. And I brought up Pete Harnisch because he was a young, hot prospect. Holy crap, did he get killed? He just got absolutely destroyed. And I think I only brought him up for 2 games because it was so bad. I'm like, let's go with the 28-year-old who's an okay pitcher over Pete Harnisch just getting destroyed.
You were like the real O's back then, where it seemed like they always were rushing their young pitchers up because they needed them so badly.
Right, I did. And I did bring him up. I brought Schilling up right away as soon as it seemed plausible to real life. I had Bob Malacky up. I brought Greg Olson up and just used him as a middle reliever constantly.
Nice.
which
The
he was
next
actually
year
pretty
was the
good.
year he really came up, right? Because 89 was the why not year for them.
Yes, I think he came up the very end of '88. I think they brought him up like September. But yeah, I always try to get those years mixed up because I graduated college in '90, and the '89 year. So I was the beginning of the '89 season was the end of my junior year, and they had a really good start to the season, and I was really psyched about it because '88 had sucked so bad. And a buddy of mine who's a Red Sox fan was just mocking me, like, "Oh yeah, when we get back at school in August, September, yeah, they're gonna be last place just like usual." And we got back, and the first time I saw him, he just goes, "I'm sorry."
Because that was the year, was 89 the year that it came down to like one of the final weekends of the year against Toronto?
It did. It came down the final weekend against Toronto, and I remember the Saturday. They played Toronto a 3-game series, and on the Friday night of the series, I was out drinking with friends. And again, this is the olden days, and the bar we were at in the small town I went to college, I had to leave my ID in order to get a pitcher because people were stealing empty pitchers of beer.
Of course.
And I got drunk and I forgot my ID. And the next day I called the bar and they're like, "Yeah, it's here. You can come get it." And I was going to go get it that night. And then that Saturday was the game that basically lost them the series. And I think Olsen threw like he was just all over the place. And I remember watching with friends and just storming out of the TV room in my fraternity, like, I'm done.
That was the end.
Yeah, and walk into the bar and get my ID and get a few drinks. And the buddy, Chris Overby, who had apologized earlier, he like bought all my drinks that night. He's like, being a big baseball fan, I know how much this sucks. I'm just buying you beers all night long.
At least you got free drinks out of the O's missing out on the playoffs.
But I really like that. I mean, I played the 1901 Orioles. I don't think I finished the season, but it's just the random of, oh, that seems cool.
Yeah.
Let me try that. So I really love that about Out of the Park, that you can do that you can find these really niche things that you want to try, whether it's from your history or from something you've read about. I don't know how historically accurate they all are, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the fun of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I used to like doing that with Stratomatic baseball, going back and replaying the season that the cards were from, or going back several years after I'd gotten new cards and replaying an old season to see if, I could outperform whoever the manager was.
Yeah.
That was so much more work than it is with a game on a computer, man.
Yeah. It's funny. I've looked at Stratomatic over the years, and I have some friends who play the online version, and I just never did it. I don't know why. I mean, I've played soccer simulators. I was looking back when we talked about doing this. I've been probably playing them since like '99, off and on.
Other than Football Manager, other ones too?
The first one I played was an EA Sports one called Premier League Manager. And I looked at it. I looked at some of the Wikipedia page, and I think it was like 89 I mean 99. Not 89, 99. I think that's when I played it. The precursor to Football Manager was called Championship Manager, and I know I was playing that as early as 2002 because that Christmas we got snowed in at my in-laws. And I remember having a laptop and that was the saving grace to being snowed in at my in-laws for literally like a week, because it was one of these things where it started snowing Christmas morning. We only expected to stay like a night. I didn't have beer. They weren't drinkers. I had a 2.5-year-old. So I just remember distinctly the Football Manager, Championship Manager saved my life that week.
Yeah, I'm glad it did, and you're here to talk about it, man. That sounds like. Hey, speaking of beer, what beer are you drinking tonight? Is it a local beer?
Yes, it is. I'm drinking Speed Shades.
All right.
There is a Crowler or Speed Shades from Something Wicked Brewing Company here in Hanover, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
My favorite local brewery and probably my favorite local beer. It's in the top 5 without a doubt.
Cool.
And they have one of those mug clubs. This is my member mug.
Yeah.
And you get a different mug every year. So at the end of the year, you get your mug to take home, and they do a new version of it. We have not gotten their 1990 or 2019, 2020 mugs yet. I don't think they're allowed to give them out. So I'll get it eventually.
Nice. When they let you back in the place?
Yeah, they're doing well. They were open. PA's closed again. The bars and restaurants are closed. They were open. They were doing. I'm picking up some crowlers from them tomorrow. They're doing some special, like you order online and you go pick stuff up. So, what are you drinking?
Nothing right now. I'm actually out. Got
Oh.
nothing here. Making a run tomorrow. I think I'm going to go down to 1623, which is in Eldersburg, Maryland. Relatively new brewery, but they make really good stuff. And I think they are open tomorrow for you can do curbside orders. And I think I'm going to go down there and stock up for the holidays.
Yeah, I went to Aldous, which is another one of our local places today, and they had a special. It was $30, and you got a box wrapped in Christmas paper that has 12 random bottles in it.
Nice.
And they must be rotating out their tasting, like their when you get a flight, they must be rotating out their glasses because you also get 2 tasting room glasses, and I know they're not giving them away unless they're just buying new ones. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. So it's always good to support these kind of local places.
It is. I agree. So I'd love for you to, in a minute here, maybe pull Football Manager up on the screen for people who aren't familiar with it. But I wanted to start some of our Football Manager talk on some of the things you've noticed when you play Football Manager that you'd like to see in Out of the Park, because you've brought up several that I would love to see also.
Yeah. I think one of the most important things, I think, is the communication between the players and the manager and how it can actually affect the game. And I'm managing a team in England right now, and I had a player who another team, offered a lot of money to transfer him out, and he wanted to leave, so he left. And another player got pissed about it, one of my starters, and he just never, even when I explained it, we'd like come up with these prompts of, I'm mad you transferred Elliot List, and it was like, well, he wanted to leave, we weren't going to stop him. And then the player was like, I don't think that's good enough. And we had there's literal back and forth conversations. And that player was so upset, he eventually asked to be transferred himself. Like, he didn't like how I was handling something, and he was fine. It was fine because it was a position I had enough other people. It didn't bother me, but yeah, the interaction between players and staff has a real impact on the game.
I like how you can interact with your players during the game too.
Yeah, I was just saying, and that too, you can. Now, Football Manager 21, which just came out, they have reduced the number of things you can say to them during a game.
Okay.
But a lot of the ones in FM 20 didn't really have any impact, or only had a negative impact no matter when you use them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that is yin and yang of, I wish I had more, but when I had more, I wasn't using most of them anyway. And you can, you can individually or give feedback individually or as a team. So that's always really fun too.
Can you share your screen and show us who you're managing right now? And while you're doing that, I'll pull up. There's a question from Kenneth. Looks like it got cut off here, but he asked, are there any advanced analytic stats missing from OOTP that you wish it included? That's interesting. I feel like they have so many. They go so in depth. I'm sure Pat has some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think Football Manager has a lot more. I mean, Art of the Park has a lot more analytics, while Football Manager has a lot more. And I'll show that in a second here. The players are rated in a lot more areas and a lot more in depth. So I can show you that right now. So I'm managing.
I'll pull it up on the screen. Oh, Pat was saying he hopes they get StatCast type stuff if possible.
Right. Yeah, that would be really cool too. I can't see whether I'm.
You are now Football Manager is now on our screen.
Okay, cool. So this is my squad screen. I am managing Stevenage, who is in, and this is going to be one of those things. They are in League Two, which is actually the 4th level of British soccer.
Right. And this is the team that has gotten a lot of buzz recently because they have the Burger King logo on their jersey.
Yes.
And Burger King targeted them for sponsorship, apparently, because they thought they did this thing with this challenge to see if people could make this a good team in FIFA, right?
I think that's what it was. I think it was FIFA, yeah. And yes, and I didn't make that connection until I started managing them. And I went to the team page and I was like, I saw the logo. I'm like, oh crap, that's right. I read about that.
Yeah.
What I started, so this season, this they call them a save, or this campaign, or my career. I started with a team in Norway, and I found that starting in Scandinavian countries can be good because the expectations aren't always as high, and you can build up some reputation pretty well. And Stevenage was the best opportunity I had in England when it came about. So I won. I did okay. I didn't win the league, but I won the cup with the team I was with in Norway. So that built up my reputation, and I jumped to Stevenage. So let me just call up a player here.
While you call up the player, I'll throw up a couple more things. Okay. Ben was saying he'd love catcher framing stuff to be in the game.
And I mean, look at this. Look at all these attributes a player has. And that's something that, yeah, it would be great if Out of the Park took it to that level, because there's like 30 some categories for each player, which I don't pay that close attention to all of them. What I generally do is just I'm able to compare them when I'm scouting a player. I can compare them to a player I have, and I just see if they're going to be better or not. But what they do is they give you all these categories and attributes, and then the ones that are highlighted are the ones that are most important to the position they play. So this guy's he's a center midfielder. So the ones in green are the ones with the little green tab are the most important, and the one in the blue are a little less, but are also very important. So as you can see, they have crazy detailed attributes that Out of the Park doesn't always go into. And I think, yeah, little things like catcher framing for a particular position would be really good for you to make that decision on who you're going to pick up.
Yeah, you know, something else I really liked when I was playing Football Manager, and just a little background on me with Football Manager. I don't have the latest version, which is 21, but I had 20 and played that this year, and it was my first time ever playing Football Manager. Really liked it. Don't have nearly the soccer knowledge I have with like baseball or hockey. So that was, you know, good and bad. I had to learn a lot of things. I definitely went online and did some research to make sure I understood the way certain things worked. And it taught me a lot. One of the things I really liked about Football Manager is that you can choose what type of things you want to train your players on, what attributes you'd like to have them focus on. And then the other coaches will give you their thoughts on whether that's the ideal thing to have that player focus on. So they can actually improve in the areas you want them to improve in, which in Out of the Park, I'd say the closest thing there is to that is where you can decide, all right, I'm going to force play a guy at this position so he learns another position. Right. But Pat Holden, GM of the fake Baltimore Orioles, has brought this up before. It would be great if you could do things like have a pitcher learn to develop another pitch. Yep. Things that happen in real baseball. And I feel like that's where Football Manager is a step ahead of Out of the Park in some of these areas.
Yeah. So let me go to this guy's training screen. For training, I tend to push it over to my staff because it's just so minute, and I'll jump in if I see someone who really needs something. But yeah, so he's training with the defensive. I can pick him to train in any of these positions because this is a fairly versatile player. So I can pick him in any position and any attitude within a position. So that's just crazy detailed. He's one of my best players, so I'm not messing with him. Then I can take an additional focus. Like if I really need him to work on corner kicks, I can make him do that. I can push that through. And even though I have everything set to the assistant coaches handling the details, I can override that. So I could say corners, and it'll come up and say, do you really want to do this? So that's good too, that you can get to that minute level. And then I can pick the intensity of the level he's training, which again is pretty set. And let me just show you here the interaction here. So right here, if I go to his training screen, I can give him feedback on his training. So I can go to him and have a conversation and tell him he's training really well. And they've added this year, these greetings. So you can put your arm around the guy, you can pat him on the shoulder, which is a little less like friendly, or you can just shake his hand. And then you can give him some feedback. And I've noticed here, one thing I've always looked at is the personality of the player is very important, because you might get a guy, I forget what, there was one guy who was obviously, he did not want any touchy-feely stuff with the coach. And I just literally said, I think you've trained really well. And he's like, we don't really need to talk about this. Can I be done? Okay, we're good.
Can you also show the page where it tells what your team is doing in terms of training?
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool too. And that's another thing you can't do out of the park, where you can say, like, this week we're going to focus on, outfield.
Yeah. Let me show that. Let me see what happens when I tell him this.
Oh yeah.
He's trained well, but not great. He trained well, but not great. So, he's good to hear that. So his morale went up a little bit. We're good. Okay. Team training. So here's the schedule. This will show you the calendar for a month going out. And I've adjusted this occasionally, where I've noticed we've gotten killed in a particular area, and I will find one block and say, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to work on corner kicks instead of match tactics or whatever. So you can go in and you can play with that, and it builds in plenty of rest and travel. It builds in travel. So I really, that kind of detail. And then whenever something changes, like if you get, because of the nature of European soccer, when cup competitions, if games get added to your schedule or things change because of weather, you'll get an automatic adjustment to your training calendar. And then you can go to your coaches, and this shows who leads what, who runs what part of the training. And I always have this put automatically again, because it's just too hard to figure it out for me. I prefer more to focus on finding the right tactic, finding the right players, and keeping their morale up. And that's where I think I do the best coaching a team.
Cool. So Pat had a question too, and maybe you can explain the difference between baseball and soccer, and the coach versus the general manager.
Yeah, you are. Yes. Right now, I am pretty much both. So the manager in European soccer is generally the coach and the general manager. And they kind of split between the two. There are more teams are bringing in business people to help run that side and the contract side in real life. So my team does have a general manager, but I get first choice to do those things. So I will sometimes, like with contract negotiations for a player, it's just a contract renewal. When I just started the season, a lot of times I'll just delegate that to the GM, because I know it's a player I have and he wants to stay, and it's just less screen clicks for me and moves it along quicker.
Another question about your manager, nationality.
Yeah, I know Nicolino. Hey, how you doing, Nicolino? Yes, I did set myself. I don't know. It's just my personal arrogance to be me. So let me go to my profile screen. I am an American. I do have my real birthday. I made myself on this one a professional soccer player at the local level. In FM20, my first game, the first one I did, and there's the first time I played it like in 7 years. I made myself like just a amateur player, and it did not go well. Like, I could not get any respect from any players, and I started at the lowest level of English soccer, and it just went terribly. So I started a second career where I made myself a local or regional professional, and that really, really helped. So I think I always try to goose it. I could make myself a Brit or something like that, but I don't know. It's just a weird thing about being myself to a certain extent. I'm doing it. I did I did not do. So there's my face. There's the coach appearance. You can come with the appearance. One thing that they do is you can generate a 3D model of your coach face from a photo of yourself.
I did this.
I can't unsee the face it gave me, man. Oh, it was so bad. It was. I did it for FM20. I did not do it for this one because it was just such a it was frightening. It was really, really frightening. So yeah. So there are those details that can make a difference. Those little things can definitely make a difference. But I'd rather struggle a little bit and kind of find my way and just have the fun of being an American than say I'm this professional from England and doing that. But yeah,
Yep.
I think that's that's the thing I think separates the two is the details. Is those details of going into that depth. But remember, I mean, Football Manager in some way, shape, or form has been around like 20 some years. I mean, I think that's what Out of the Park has done in what 7 or so years or whatever it is amazing because of that historical stuff where you can go back and play the team of your childhood or play a team you've only heard of through like newspaper articles. So I think they'll get there because since they mainly focus on the U.S. game, they have a little of those other leagues, but those are kind of secondary. Man, if they can really get into that detail and make it work, that will be so awesome. And I saw a little bit of it in Pat's franchise hockey manager. I saw there was like kind of a hybrid of Out of the Park and Football Manager and how things were done there.
Yeah, the hockey one is on its 7th now. Out of the Park baseball, I feel like the first version of it came out in the late 90s. I think it was 99, 2000.
Okay.
But I don't recall. I wasn't playing it then, but I think I've seen some stuff about it. I think it was not nearly the game it is now. So Pat has a question about getting started in Football Manager.
Yeah, to get started, like the two ones that I've done, FM20, I started in Denmark. 21, I started in Norway. I like the Scandinavian leagues. You pick it, just kind of look and see who's done well or who's a team that's gonna do pretty well in doing those because they are, like I said, they're not as the money and the fan stuff isn't as crazy as it is in England. So I kind of like that. Pick a team that if you just look at how they did in real life, they were near the top to get in there. I've enjoyed that. When I've built mine, you can pick the leagues you want to be active in your sim. I've used basically Scandinavia, England, all the UK, France, most of the main part of Europe, most of the top leagues in Europe, because that allows you to scout from a lot of those areas too.
So when I did Football Manager, there were a couple places I enjoyed playing, and then I'll talk about one I personally would avoid. So I started off in the 4th tier of British soccer. I was in League 2, I guess is what that was. And I got promoted up 1, and then I kind of got bored with it for a little while. And my next step was the one I would avoid if I did it again. I decided for fun, I would take a job with an MLS team that was available.
Yeah.
And especially after being in League 2, MLS was not nearly as fun because of mostly the player movement is so restricted compared to what I could do on the other team.
Yeah, I haven't done an MLS team in this. I was a finalist for a job for an MLS team when I was in Norway, and I didn't get it. And I only even tried just because out of I'm not as big of an MLS fan as I used to be, but I still am a fan. And but yeah, it definitely restricts a lot of things that you can do. Um, and I just haven't done it. So yeah, starting in the middle to lower parts of England are okay. I like I said, I've just found Scandinavia to be fun.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And so in FM20, I was at Midtjylland, which is in Denmark. They're one of the top teams in Denmark, and I was there 6 years, I think, and I won 3 championships.
Nice.
And it got to the point where I had to quit because the team wanted so much to release me from my contract that no one could hire me.
Okay. Yeah.
I signed like a 3-year deal when I did well, and then teams tried to hire me, and they kept saying so and so would hire you, but the release fee is too high. So I quit, and I went to England. I went to Blackburn Rovers. I got them promoted to the Premier League from the Championship. Then I got them relegated a year later. Then I went to Scotland, and I took over a team that was supposed to finish like middle of the pack, and they almost won the league. Like it was the only time of playing this game where my board has given me an A plus. Like at some point they're just like, yeah, you're you're exceeding every expectation we had. You have an A plus rating. Then I bounced around England a little bit, had a little trouble finding a team I really liked, and then I went to Holland and did pretty good there. And then 21 came out, and I just retired from the game and deleted it from my computer.
After I got bored with the MLS, I went and I was in a Welsh league for a little while, which was really fun. I did really well there. I won a cup, did pretty well my first season, better than expected. And then by the second season, I was starting to get job offers again over in like League One, League Two. So that's a potential path to build a reputation and getting a bigger job.
Jumping in Wales or Scotland or even I don't know how much Ireland. I've never coached in Ireland because that's not usually as tied into the English and Welsh and Scottish leagues. But I want to answer Pat's second question here. Yes, there is a manager options page. If you see it up here, there are dozens of things. This is only the stuff. Was it 72? So there's 48 things that I'm responsible, 44 things I'm responsible for, and 28 things I've delegated to my staff. Now a lot of them are hiring and firing very specific jobs, so it doesn't take up time. But I give myself all the hiring and firing. I give myself that. I take no scouting responsibility. I get a scouting report where they will tell me what players they like, and I can go into the list of the people they've scouted. I do pretty much all the signing of contracts. I do all the media, tactics. It says I do none, but I go in and I make the final decisions. I get recommendations, and then I change them. So I kind of focus on that kind of stuff. Who plays for me, and then the final decision on how they play.
So I haven't played this new version 21 yet, but one of the things I've noticed in some of the videos I've seen or watching some people play it on Twitch is that they've bumped up the gameplay even more this year, and it's not FIFA level on a video game system yet, but it's getting closer and closer.
It really is. I think it's doing really well. I think one thing they've done also is I have it set so I see like the least amount of highlights. But I'm seeing more randomness, like a bad pass or but even those bad passes that don't lead to anything, I guess is what I'm saying. Because it used to be when you saw a bad pass, you're like, oh no, they're going to score now. Like if my guy made a bad pass, you knew it. You're like, we're done. But you're seeing that randomness because that's what I love about these games. And I was watching a video today. I don't know. Have you ever watched Secret Base, part of SB Nation with John Boy and the Fumble Dimension stuff that they do there?
Yeah, and I'm familiar with John Boy's work from where was he before he did Secret Base?
He was part of SB Nation. This is just like a separate part now.
Oh, I see. Okay, I've seen his stuff with Tecmo Bowl, and then he did like that series with the Sixers in either NBA Live or 2K, where he tried to see if he could make the Sixers lose every single game.
Right. Yeah. So he and the guy he works with is named Kofi Yaboa, and they do these things, Fumble Dimension, where they try to break video games.
Yeah.
And they did one with NBA 2K where they set it up so that after they played a dynasty, and after every player retired, they would only be replaced by players who were 5'4", 135 pounds, and had the worst in every ability. So they could make the worst version of the NBA. And they do these videos where they just break things, and they just started one with Football Manager where they're trying to create the weirdest formations like they can use and see what happens. But they're working with this woman who is like a Football Manager guru, and they were asking her, what do you like about these kinds of games, these management games? And she said, it's the randomness. Like, you can get good at FIFA, and I've gotten, not like professional video game level, but like where I know at the level I set it in the league I'm playing, I'm going to win most of my games at FIFA because it's a button, it's a skill, it's an actual physical skill you're trying to do. And this, you're trying to guess what the computer's going to do. You're going to try and it's like real sports where these things just happen.
I agree. Like, I found that with some of the simulators. I think Pat with his fake Orioles sim ran into that this season where he had a really good team, made the playoffs for like 6 straight seasons, back-to-back World Series. Then all of a sudden they don't make the playoffs. And then I got a couple comments here. Pat was saying, 99 is right. 21 is the and 21 that they have out now is for the version, not the year.
Yeah. Okay, it just matches up, which is why I wasn't sure. Yeah.
And then a couple questions here. I actually don't play Perfect Team. But I've watched OOTP does some stuff with Perfect Team on their Twitch channel. And I've watched a little bit of that, but just haven't gotten into it just because when I play that game, I'm just so into, rebuilding a franchise. And I suppose at some point, I don't know, I haven't gotten bored with it yet. I suppose at some point I might get to there where I want to go and give it a shot, but I have not done it yet.
Me neither. I played a bunch of OOTP over the summer. I've trailed off and just focused more on this lately. I do want to get back into it. I do. One thing I do want to say that I love about OOTP, especially since Nicolino works for them. So I love that you can just sim a game. I mean, there are a lot of games in Football Manager, especially when you're in League 2 and you're playing a 46-game league season plus 8 to 10 cup games. Sometimes I just want to sim it. I want to let my assistant coach make the decisions. And I think that is one huge benefit of OOTP is you can just be the GM and get through, as Pat does, a season in a short amount of time.
Right. You don't have to attend every game.
Yes. So I started this game of Stevenage. So what year am I in? I'm going to stop sharing since we looked at a lot of that stuff. Whoa. There we go.
All right.
I'm in August 2022. So I just started the 22-23 season. And I have 10 days off. I might get 1.5 seasons done with all the other stuff I'm doing. Like, if I was just going to play this, but I have lots of other stuff I want to do, and hanging out with my wife and daughter. So for Christmas, but yeah, it can take time, and I think that is a big drawback of Football Manager. That even if you cut it to the absolute lowest level of highlights, you can still run into a game that takes 15 minutes. If there are a lot of cards and it's an active game and you get a guy that gets injured and you have to do your lineup. And so that's one thing I really, really think Out of the Park has over this is that.
Especially it's nice with Out of the Park when, you're going through a stretch. I ran into this with Football Manager where I thought, all right, it's going to take you a few years to kind of climb the rungs, right? So it gets slow. you've got those exciting times where you're maybe about to be promoted, or you want to make sure you don't drop down the league.
Yeah.
Or you're playing cup games and they're really exciting, but the seasons can start to feel long sometimes in Football Manager, especially as you get to that last stretch of games, the last month or so of the season, and you already know kind of where you're going to fall. Like maybe you're the first year, your first year after getting promoted, and you're going to finish middle of the pack. So, okay, I'm good. And it's like, hurry up, let's get to the off season. And it takes a while.
Yeah, and I think that's another good. Pat had mentioned leagues to start with. I would look at that. Look at the leagues that don't have. England is the only country in the Championship, League One and League Two, with 24 teams. Look for somebody with like 16 teams, where it's a 30-game regular season. It's going to take less time. England has some of these teams have 3 or 4 cups to play in. You're just going to play in maybe 1, maybe 2 cups, and it's going to just move along a lot quicker. That was definitely a draw. With Denmark, I think it was just I started. I know Midtjylland is a good Danish team. They're on ESPN Plus. I will watch them that league on Saturday and Sunday mornings once in a while. And I was like, that seems like a good place to kind of cut my teeth and get some respect and build some strength. And ended up staying there longer than I had originally planned because we were winning. We won either a cup or a championship every year I was there. And like I said, I probably could have finished done a whole career there, but I wanted to go try other stuff out.
One of the things I took a while to figure out when I was playing Football Manager is the tactics and experimenting with finding either the right players or the right tactics for the players I had. Then you can have them train on those tactics, and your team will get better, more familiar with those tactics. And then I went out and I was looking around on the forums, and people have built tactics you can download. It's amazing what the community has available to you.
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't done a lot of that. What I tend to stick with is I tend to go with when I join a new team, I clear all the tactics, and then it will suggest what the assistant coach, like the styles and the formations the assistant coach suggests. I will take them and then move into the tactics I like best, which is generally a more attacking. I like to have a more attacking formation, and then I can change their philosophy, like their attitude as they go into a game. So you can have an attacking formation, but they play defensively. And then that way, I like to have that because then they will take advantage of opportunities that they get. And I learned that with Stevenage. I came into Stevenage and I started using what the assistant coach said, and we were playing awful. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to use the tactic I like best, which is a 4-2-3-1, which is 4 defenders, 2 central midfielders, 3 attacking midfielders, and a striker. I won like 5 games in a row and took myself from starting. I wasn't like in danger of relegation, but I was getting in that second half of the table to I finished. And I'm going to get pissed. Gave up a goal with 7 minutes left in the last game, and I would have gotten in the promotion playoffs if I hadn't given up that goal. So I've kind of found this formation is what I kind of like, and I recruit players who are good at it. And so this season actually I won my first game. I lost a cup game, but it was against a higher division team, and I won my first game. So I'm hoping that I'll be in good shape.
One of the things I found interesting, this goes back to something you mentioned earlier about how sort of unpredictable these games can be sometimes. This happened to me consistently, and I don't know what happens, if it's the AI figures things out or how it all works, but I noticed in Football Manager that in many seasons I would hit a nice stretch, right? After like maybe 5 games, and I'd start hitting this nice stretch where everything was going well. I'd figured out what tactics worked. I knew which players I wanted to use in the lineup. And then all of a sudden I would start losing games.
Yep.
And I'd have to change things up again to get winning again. And I don't know if you've researched this or if anybody else has, but is that the game adjusting, like saying, oh, other coaches are watching your team and they now know what you do?
I really think they build streakiness into it. And not having played enough OOTP, I don't know how much they've built that in or how much you notice it, since you might just be simming games instead of sitting through them and seeing them. So I'm not 100% sure, but you're right. I get streakiness like crazy where I will. And let me go back to last season. I want to go back because I did have some just crazy stretches where, let me see where I came in. I came in and I won a couple of games, and then I lost a couple of games, and then I won 5, and I lost 2, then I tied 1. So I think momentum, and that's the emotion aspect that they kind of build in,
Right.
with those conversations, with those things, with the coach getting pissed at players. And I have noticed that one of the commands, they call them shouts. You can shout from the sideline. The demand more shout.
Yep.
That works a lot. That really is one of the best. And I think if you get the right kinds of players, and I notice what players don't like it because you can see how they react to it. And
yeah.
so, okay, that guy doesn't like that. Maybe he's not the kind of guy I want. So I'm glad they kept that in this version of it, because it is, I think, a very good one. If you have a good relationship with your team, if you have a good rapport with your players and you demand more, they will respond.
I notice how when you bring young players in, right, and you start giving them some playing time, and their reactions, that nervous comes up a lot. That actually brings me to something else I wanted to ask you about: the difference in the 2 games, Out of the Park and Football Manager, with young players and player development. And I guess there's a difference, just in the 2 sports, right, and how they develop players, and bringing people up through a minor league system in baseball versus in soccer. They're in your academy, they're on your team, and then depending on where you are, they might be moving on.
Right.
And how do you manage that? Because in Football Manager, that was something I really had to learn, is as you're moving up the rungs, in British soccer with your club, how do you know when to start selling off guys?
Yeah, that's hard. That thing with contracts and the budget and things like that are huge, and they can play a big role in what the board thinks about you. Because if even though I've only played 2 games, so the board doesn't have a lot to praise me or complain about me, but both of them are players I sold that they weren't happy about.
I've had that happen, but it seems like the right thing to do, because when you look at it, you're thinking, I'm going to lose this guy, or my club isn't where we need to be to pay this guy to stay.
Yeah.
And so you get rid of him, and he jumps up a couple rungs.
Yeah.
And you bring in somebody else as you try to slowly. The players can climb the rungs in soccer faster than the teams.
Yes. They got pissed because I sold a guy for 10,000, and we're in the very low level, so that's not. And he was valued at like 20 something, but he only had 1 year left on his contract. He wasn't going to play a lot. Even if I waited and tried to play him and maybe push his value, I'm going to get a. It's like, no, let's just get rid of him, and then maybe it just gives a room for a younger guy to get in there. But I like Nico. I have not played Italy yet, and I don't know why. I've just not gotten hired there. This game, when I was in Norway, I applied for so many Italian jobs and just did not get them. But that is, I mean, the cup thing is huge. I got knocked out in the Carabao Cup, which is all the professional leagues except the Premier League. I got knocked out in the first round in the very first game of the season. It was like, good. I don't have to worry about that. I don't, that is not important to me. But yeah, that definitely, because I don't have a very deep team, because League Two only allows you 20 players who are over 21 years old. So if I had to play a lot of extra games, I'm going to have to pull a lot of young guys up. But yeah, the development thing is interesting, and I think that's one thing I think both games have gotten really well is to make it a guessing game. I've seen it with Pat's thing, and I've seen it with mine, is that you have no clue. The big difference is because of the global nature of the two games is I remember when I was managing Michelin, I had this guy he was like 19. He wasn't great. He wasn't the same level as some of the guys I had currently, but Borussia Dortmund, one of the best teams in Germany, came trying to get him, and they offered a lot of money. And it was like, okay, I can see this guy is going to be very good, but I need to win now in my league. So I'm going to take these $2 million, which will help my team a ton, transfer him out. And what happened was like 5 years later, they had bought other young players and they didn't need him. I got him back for a fraction of that. He was still only in his mid-20s. He was one of my best players.
And you were probably in a better position as a club at that point too,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And he still had a high opinion of me because I helped him move on. Like he had like that has that memory. And I think Out of the Park probably has that, but it's just such a smaller market. It's harder. You're not transferring and trading and moving people all over the place. And that's just the nature of baseball. That's not the game's fault.
I do like that in Football Manager. I think Out of the Park has a little something like it, but in Football Manager, where it does remember your past interactions with players, how they left your club, what you said to them when they left. And then it can either come back to help or haunt you later if you need that player again.
It's just the nature of when you only have 30-some teams, 32 teams, it's going to be a little harder for it to or 30, baseball's 30. It's going to be a little harder to make it all work, whereas where you have hundreds of teams, that can definitely play a part in it. So
in Out of the Park, you will see, it's somewhat equivalent where you might have a guy who says, no, I don't want to come play for you because I don't like your manager.
Yeah.
But I think in Football Manager, it's on another level. It's a more detailed part of the game.
But yeah, I just love having these. I really love that there's both of them. I'm 1/1000th of the hockey fan of you and Pat, but the more we're restricted to what we can do outside, the more I am like, let me buy it for whatever it is, $25 or whatever, and play with it for a weekend and see what happens.
The new one, the Hockey Manager, I'm
thinking about, or I even
number 7.
They discounted the other one because it's going to be replaced. So I was like, I saw a discount code or something, and I thought about it. Because I love that stuff. Like so the video games I play are mainly like I play The Sims and stuff like that. I play like experience type games, not action.
Right.
I actually did buy because there's a used video game store here in town. It's a tennis game. But where you're actually playing tennis, there's $5. So
nice.
Play that for $5. I'll sit in the chair and play that for once in a while. But mainly, I like stuff that is you're making decisions rather than doing things. It just there's so many more opportunities out there. My sim now tries to just get into bed with as many people as possible. And, I just like making decisions. Like, I'm going to take this person and have them make this decision all the time and see what happens.
Yeah, I haven't played The Sims in a long, long time, but I do think I have similar, I guess, preferences to you in sort of the games I like, where on the sports side of things, I like anything that lets me get into the strategy of it and really try to manage a franchise. And then I was always into other strategy games. I spent a lot of time as a kid playing SimCity.
I used to play that. Yeah, I haven't played in a long time. The Sims, I only play The Sims because I play that when I ride the exercise bike because it makes it seem like nothing. It makes it seem like no time. I'm still getting a good workout, but just I'll set up like 10 things for the Sim to do and then watch it. I rarely play it any other time.
I remember that as it's been a real long time since I've played that game. It might have been when it first came out, but I do remember it as somewhat of a mindless game. You could just kind of be on autopilot while you played that.
I'll never forget one of my newspaper jobs. I was talking to my boss, and I was like, "So what'd you do last night?" Because we'd been working late. He's like, I went home and played The Sims, and then I got mad when I realized I was sitting at the computer watching a simulated version of me sitting at a computer. he was like, and so I went to bed because I realized it was stupid to be.
Yeah. In the in the OOTP and Football Manager world, any other things you can think of in one game versus the other that you wish was in the other game, or have we covered pretty much all of them?
I think what I want to try in OOTP is to merge all. I want to play one of the tournaments where I merge teams from all over, just to see how that works. To see how a team from the 20s versus a team from the 80s versus a German team, what happens. I think that will be really fun, and that's something I don't know how it works, but I want to see that. That's something that Football Manager doesn't have. It has, you're playing real life, real time. There may be ways to do other things like that. Like I know the secret base thing, they created their own players. I've never looked into stuff like that, but I want to try that with OTP and with Football Manager. I really wish they had the sim game thing, because then I'd say I'm going to do a season in Croatia. A country I have no tie to, I have no allegiance to any team. I just want to see what I can do managing a team there. But knowing that a whole season would take like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I have started, because I'm working at home, putting it in the background when I'm working and just like simming through when I need a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
Because I can't have it on my work computer, but I can have it on my home computer.
Right.
So I'm not playing it all the time, but if I need that 5-minute brain break, just go in, sim a couple of days, maybe play a game, save it, get back to work. I have been doing that.
Working your 2 jobs at once, trading up, multitasking.
Yes.
Day job that pays you, extremely important job as a football manager.
Yes, because Stevenage they need to get to League One. They need to. We were so close last year. Oh,
I'd like to see that Burger King logo up at the top. The thing I'd really like to do next time I've been limiting my OOTP time. Like at one point I got to the point where I just took it off my computer for a bit because I just needed a break. But when I get back into it, I would really like to do, somebody pointed this out in the chat on one of the previous streams, that there is a way to set it up so you can have people get promoted and relegated. You can set up,
which if there is,
would be awesome. I would love one of the major sports in North America to do that.
Comment, Patrick Holden.
Just a quick 5-minute break while I look at my simulated team. But yeah, I would really like to take a look at that and see how that can be set up so that you could have, maybe take AA, AAA, and the majors. And
but even just to take the 30 teams and split them into 3 10-team leagues.
And that would be cool too. Yeah.
Then to do something like that, I would love to dig in. Because like I said, the 88 Oriole thing, because I could sim it, I would do like literally a month in a few hours and then come back a couple days later. If I knew I could do that with a pro rel thing, that would be so much fun. Because I do get it. The whole promotion relegation thing, I get why it's enticing, but I also get why it would disrupt the whole way American sports work. Like you can't break down any huge economic system like that just because you think it should be done differently in one day. It's like you can't just say, okay, we know you've spent $800 million on this stadium, but we're going to put in something that may make that obsolete.
Right.
But yeah, I would love, in a gaming sense, to play with it. That would be a lot of fun.
I think it would be a great way for some North American league to differentiate themselves. Next time somebody decides to start like another independent baseball league or a new football league like the XFL or whatever it is, I would love to see somebody do that. Do you think they'll ever do that with the MLS? Do you think that'll ever take on that structure that we see in other places?
If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said maybe. Now I would say probably not because they keep expanding. And I see why they're expanding because they've done well. They've gotten a lot of money coming in. But if somehow that money had gone to shoring up the lower levels and saying instead of getting 75 million to get a new team, we're going to find someone to give us 20 million to the lower level and build that up. I would think that maybe at some point they could. But now I think they've just gone all in on getting as many top level teams. Then there's always been talk of having an MLS 1, MLS 2. Maybe that'll happen.
If it gets big enough, if they add enough teams, they might do something like that.
But I also think, what we've seen in the last 9 months has upended everything in every sport. And made them change, what when the NHL and NBA were able to do and pull it off. I think it's like people are like, well, what if we do 2 short seasons and then have a chance? There's so many things. So you need to promote Nicolino's comment because I have a comment on that.
Oh,
I would love that, or I would love a career boxing sim where you're the trainer, where you just because when I bought the tennis one, I almost bought UFC Fight Night, but I was like, because they didn't have any of the good boxing ones available and they're used. Oh man, to do something a combat sports thing where you are more controlling the training and the lifestyle and the decisions like, oh, he didn't show up for training today, you have to call him. Like that would be great. I would love stuff like that. As an ex-wrestler, there's no way there'd be an amateur wrestling one. There's just too many things. And I think UFC suffers from the same thing. There's too many options. But a boxing sim, oh yeah, that would be great.
When I did a stream last night with Dan Sagan about his position calculator for Out of the Park Baseball, one of the things we talked about was a basketball simulator because he's way into basketball and he does 2K a lot. But
yeah,
he was talking about how he'd love to see somebody create a basketball simulator on the level of Football Manager or Out of the Park.
Yes, I know, and I've Googled trying to find one, and I can't. Well, one of the big things is the best place that the best. Oh, Google, I said something about Google, and my phone just thought I was asking him a question. That's why I kept looking. But because of the whole thing with the NCAA and the rights and all that, and the guy who's doing the Western Illinois basketball sim,
the Leathernecks, Ricky O'Donnell.
Yeah, that's the place for a lot of these simulators within U.S. sports that they just can't do because of rights right now. That is where it is ripe to run a football, a basketball, any of those. But yeah, I have an old 2K on my Xbox, and it's just too hard to set it up to run the season, and you're not going to get much out of it other than to run a season.
So it's in basketball and football. It's the importance the NCAA plays
and
in developing players. That's what makes it harder to get the rights to do everything.
Yeah, well, I think the NCAA doesn't want to be, because of the player names, they don't want to be associated. The whole Ed O'Bannon case, that players can do that. But yeah, I played. God, it was 2008. I was playing NCAA football, and I was playing the games and I took over Kent State just because they're one of the worst teams, and I eventually replaced Iowa in the Big Ten. You could.
That's great. I loved that game and the NCAA football game.
There was the football. It was the football.
Oh, it was the football. Okay, yeah, the football and basketball. There were 2 college hoops and then an NCAA one. And
the football one, I was so good. I got so good because you just ran slant patterns and go patterns. That's all you had to do. You recruit the fastest players and just do this. And I get to the point where one time the All Big Ten team, or the All MAC team, because they're still before we got invited to the Big Ten, the All MAC first team was in every player, all my starters, and most of the second team were my backups because they were playing like half of the game. But that's the whole thing. That goes back to it's a skill. You learn a skill. I wasn't I really wasn't doing a lot. I would have had more fun if the recruiting and the coaching had just been isolated, and I would have had more fun with that.
You had kind of maxed out that game, and there was basically every year you were either going to win the national title or lose in that game or something.
I was just dominating. That's the fun of like Ricky O'Donnell's doing, is to get a team and to just coach it and manage it and run it. That's the fun that these games have, of being in charge of the decisions, not the actual playing. And they are a great way to make you think about sports in a different way.
Yeah, if anybody watching hasn't seen what Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation's doing with, it's the Western Illinois Leathernecks. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. In the game, it's college hoops from, what was it, 2014 or something? Is that the last time they made it?
Earlier than that, but it was a long time ago.
But he's like, I think he just finished up season 29.
Something
and
like
it lets
that.
you go, I think he said you can go to 40
years, and then I'll have to automatically retire.
So, but he's writing it up. He has a newsletter, and then he does a blog post on it, and he live streams. I think it's a couple nights a week.
And it started as he had started it like right before the quarantine and all started happening, as kind of just a gag. I think he started it when March Madness got postponed.
Okay.
Or it got canceled. And he did it, and then he got laid off. And so he did it on his own blog. And then when SB Nation pulled him back, he started doing it on there. And I think part of the reason he got pulled back is he was getting such a viewership and readership that they couldn't not bring him back.
I haven't
watched many of the Twitches, but I watched one night when he won a championship, and he was legit popping champagne corks in his house or apartment and drinking. It was the funniest thing in the world.
There's a couple things I love about it. One is the way he broadcasts. He starts off on his laptop, and then he's not streaming direct from his video game system. He just turns the laptop and aims it until only his TV screen's in the laptop, and it looks fine. And then the other thing that I really liked about it too was that I just completely lost my train of thought. I was so excited about the laptop piece. We'll have to come back to it.
No, but yeah, it is. It's so low tech because I think it's an older gaming system that he can't hook up because the game is old.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Is I've been in some of the Twitch broadcasts, but I wasn't in for the first several seasons. I think by the time I realized he was doing it, he'd already maybe won a couple of titles, and it was maybe he's up to 29 now. He might have been around 12 or 14 or something. But I was asking in the chat, how many viewers he normally got, because there were, I think, a couple or few hundred people in there, and they said that when he was first doing it and he played like in his first Final Four, I think he had like 1,000+ people watching his
his streams were huge, and now they've got people literally writing blog posts about his streams. It's insane, but it
is fake sports at its best in terms of like getting a following.
We all love to say, like, when a player does something horrible, we all love to say, oh, they suck and all that. And we all know, those of us who are smart know that no, they don't. Like, the worst minor league player is a million times better than most of us ever could dream of being.
Right.
And I was chatting with this about a friend, like, some of the guys as a sports writer, I saw high school kids who were just absurdly talented. And I remember, this is one of my favorite stories. I was watching, so in Pennsylvania, American Legion, they have these things called Scouts All-Star Games, where they start at the league level, then go build up all the way to the state Scouts All-Star Games. And they are legitimately run by professional scouts.
Okay.
So the league picks the players to play in the first game, and then the scouts say who goes on to the next game. And it might not be, they're looking for intangibles. They're looking for, like, you might say, why is that guy going? They're going, well, because he's a sophomore and we want to scout him. We want to be able to scout him and know. So anyway, I went to this one and it was like at the third level. So it was like most of central Pennsylvania. And this one kid ran out to pitch. And I swear to God, both dugouts emptied to run behind the backstop to watch him warm up. And I turned to one of my buddies who worked for the Lancaster paper because he was from one of the Lancaster schools. I'm like, what the hell's going on? They're like, I forget his name. I'll think of it. Like, oh yeah, he's being recruited by like Arizona State. He's big time. He goes out, and the first batter he faces is a kid from my area, a kid from around York, who ended up playing Division II baseball. Was actually a really good Division II player. Kid goes up there. First pitch is a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Boom, strike one. Second pitch, same thing. Boom, strike two. Third pitch was this heinous curveball that landed like perfect and was called strike three. And the guy who was batting, name was Rob McDonald. I'll never forget this. Stood in the batter's box and literally just started laughing. Just threw his head back and just started laughing because he was like, yeah, okay.
No way I'm ever hitting this kid. Yeah.
That kid who was just ridiculous was turned into a third baseman by the Brewers and made it to Double-A.
Yeah.
So the point is, we all say that about these players, like, oh, that guy sucks, but we say that about coaches and general managers because we really do think we can be better than that, and that's what these games are awesome about. I knew John Angelos. I grew up. I didn't know him that well, but I knew John Angelos in high school. I honestly think I probably could have made some decisions better than Johnny Angelos.
Got to tell him about the fake Orioles.
I do. That I see again. Thank you for telling us that because that's very cool. I would love that. I got to dig back into it.
Yeah, you can create other feeder leagues. I actually at one point I created. So this is pretty cool when you get into some of the settings in Out of the Park. You can set up an Arizona Fall League, and there's stuff in the forums about that, which is great for your player development. So you can send guys there. And then I actually created another league because I was wanting to get at bats for some of my youngest prospects. And for some of them, their seasons start kind of late. So I created a whole nother league, a winter league. And I think it was like the Aruban Winter League or something. And it'll let you can pick the country where you want to run the league, and then you can pick the cities you want the teams to be in. And it had real cities and towns in Aruba. And then I set it up so you can have it affiliated with certain major league teams. So I think I had 2 or 3 major league teams feeding each of the winter league teams. And then there were certain parameters. I set it up so it could only be guys either of a certain age or that hadn't played above high A or something like that. So then I would start sending guys not only to the Arizona Fall League, but then this whole other set of guys to this Aruban Winter Ball League. And that would give them more at bats. And if you wanted to, force a guy at a position so that they could develop there, it was another way to do that. That actually reminds me of another tactic I've used in Out of the Park. And I've talked to my brother about this. I love force playing guys during spring training because bats, sometimes it makes a difference.
And I know Pat force plays like a position when he sends them down.
Yeah.
In order to make sure that I think I know he's had some real success with that. I think that's really good. That feeder league, I didn't realize that because, like I said, I was focused on a lot of Oriole stuff. But that would be something really fun to play with.
It's really cool. And you can adjust, how many international prospects you want to come in and have available every July 1. There's a lot of stuff you can mess with that gets really cool. I would like to go in and play with a league next time and just figure out a way to do promotion, relegation.
Yeah. I might do that. We're not doing anything till the evening tomorrow. As no one cares about this, but our big family Christmas Eve is not happening. I know you got your good food from your mom.
I've got some crab cakes in my fridge. Be making those tomorrow.
We're just gonna do Italian. We're gonna do just like a regular dinner, and then hang out in the evening. So I've got all day. I've got all day. I do have to pick up stuff. Christmas morning we're doing like there's a really good bakery in town. I've got some cinnamon rolls and donuts from them.
Nice.
So I got to pick them up tomorrow morning.
Well, keep me posted if you start a league tomorrow. I'd like to hear about it.
I will. Like I said, I did. Oh wow! I started a football manager game, and my guy just chipped the goalkeeper. Fuck yeah, it's awesome. I just happened to click over. He chipped him.
And you're monitoring an NBA game in real life at the same time. You got a lot going on.
Actually, Hulu restarted for some weird reason, so no, it's not going on. And anyway, the late game started. I'll probably turn on to that here in a minute. Man, I don't think having sports literally happening is the safest thing, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm watching very little real sports right now. Once live sports stopped happening, we cut the cord and went just internet. And so anything I watch, it's available, it's something on the internet. Which I mean, and I'm not buying anything extra right now to be able to get it. I'm just watching whatever sports is available. But, I'm following the fake Orioles. I'm following the Leathernecks, and I'm rooting for the Baltimore Blue Crabs in hockey. That's my sports world right now.
You stream it every time you stream. I'm like, I'm just going up to bed, or I just started an improv show, and I'm like, Well,
we got a 2-game losing streak going right now. We were 14-4-1, and then we lost to the Rangers. Still in first place, but we'll see.
We mainly cut the cord for cable. We only get like the networks. We get Hulu Live, which just went up from 54 to 64 a month, so it's the same as cable. But I also have ESPN Plus, so I will actually watch more sports on ESPN Plus than on Hulu, because like I said, Saturday and Sunday mornings I watch those random soccer leagues. Now that I'm up late every Friday and Saturday night, I watch Aussie Rules or rugby from New Zealand. Like on a Saturday night at 12:30. That's fantastic. That's so cool. I was watching cricket earlier this week. That's the ESPN Plus. I think is one of the. If you're a sports fan, getting ESPN Plus for less than $10 a month is one of the best deals out there, because they have more and more stuff. And one cool thing is, if something's on ESPN and you only get ESPN Plus, you can't get it.
Okay.
But ESPN Plus has the Spanish language feed. So if you don't care about the announcers, you can still watch the game.
And a lot of times I want to not care about the announcers, so that's great.
Or they'll have, for special events, like a third feed with like above the rim or sideline. So as long as you can deal with watching a different kind of broadcast. So that's like the sneaky way of getting ESPN for a lot cheaper. It's
a good tip.
Yeah. And if you like soccer, God, Saturday and Sunday mornings. I think one morning last weekend, I tuned in, and they don't have the Premier League, but they have the Championship. And there was a championship match. There were games from Germany, Italy, India. China might have already ended, and Holland, and I think Denmark. So there were like 7 leagues going on within like a 3-hour period. It's just like,
yeah, you don't even need the big cable package at that point.
Yeah, and like I said, if ESPN fits into people's budget, it's just such a good deal. We get it cheaper because of the Hulu. We get like a couple $1 discount, but no, that's a good deal. And if you like college sports, they have literally everything. You can watch fencing, watch water polo. So that's my.
We need a good water polo sim.
Yeah, a fencing sim would actually kind of be pretty fun. That one, fencing probably would be, because you're just angling like up down.
A college fencing sim. Nice.
I think we've reached the end with that.
I feel like I just hit the end of the internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Maybe we turn some new either football manager people into out of the park people, or out of the park people into football manager with your thoughts and your screen shares. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
And I definitely have learned some stuff thanks to Nicolino about some of the things of OOTP I can go play with hopefully the next week or so.
Keep me posted, and thanks to everybody who jumped into the comments.
Thanks, Pat.
PF Holden still up, probably working in the warehouse trying to get that team ready for opening day. All right, everybody, have a good holidays. I'll be back with more streams soon. I don't know when just yet, but it won't be too long. But I'll probably take a couple days off here and then get back to it. Thanks, Bri.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. See you, everyone.